I always thought I was invisible to them. Just another cleaner passing through their marble halls and glass walls polishing the world they owned but never earned. They didn't speak to me unless they had to. They didn't look me in the eye. But one day, everything changed. I was dusting Ravenstone's study, the billionaire matriarch of the house, when I opened a drawer looking for a cloth. Instead, I found a folder with my name on it. Not just once, over and over again. My birth date, my ID number, a stack of insurance documents, policies worth millions, and then a single typed sentence that sent ice through my spine. Primary trigger, accidental. Domestic death, Diana Mercer. At that moment, I realized I wasn't just cleaning for the rich. I was part of their endgame. And the scariest part, they weren't planning to keep me around much longer. But they underestimated me. And that was their biggest mistake. Before all of this, I was just trying to survive. I wasn't chasing dreams, I was running from nightmares. A few years back, I left an abusive relationship with nothing but a backpack and a half-charged phone. No plan, no money, no safety net. Just the desperate hope that I could build a new life with whatever pieces I had left. I stayed in shelters, slept on couches, and picked up whatever jobs I could find. Eventually, I got steady work cleaning offices and homes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. And for once, I could breathe. People underestimated me, constantly thought I was just some quiet girl with a mop and gloves. But I paid attention. I listened. I learned. That's how I found the agency. They specialized in high-discretion domestic placements. Code 4. We place help in mansions where secrets are currency. The pay was 3 times what I was making. No questions asked. Just a signature and a background check. That's how I ended up at Ravenstone's estate. From the outside, it looked like a castle carved from stone and gold. But inside, something always felt off. There were no other cleaners, no chefs, no gardeners. Just me and Raven. Her grown children visited often but rarely spoke to me. They treated me like I wasn't there. Except, they always knew where I was. At first, I told myself I was lucky. A quiet job with good money, a soft bed, a locked gate keeping the world out. But deep down, I felt like I'd walked into a cage. One that looked like luxury, but smelled like control. I had escaped one prison only to step into another. I just didn't know it yet. Not until I found the folder and realized I wasn't just working for billionaires. I was protecting their wealth with my life. The first time I stepped into Ravenstone's mansion, I felt like I was trespassing in another universe. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors, chandeliers taller than I was, paintings that probably cost more than my entire life. Everything was curated perfect, sterile, quiet. There were no family photos. No clutter, no signs of life. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a museum. One where I wasn't a guest, just part of the maintenance. Raven greeted me the first day with a handshake colder than the stone walls. She was elegant, sharp, and impossible to read. She looked at me the way people look at a clock, expecting it to work, but never thinking about how. She said very little, just handed me a schedule. No eye contact, no welcome, just you're expected to be invisible but thorough. Her grown children came and went, dressed in designer everything, always on their phones or whispering. In corners, they never acknowledged me, but I could feel them watching, like they were memorizing my routine, tracking my footsteps. There were cameras everywhere, not just in obvious places, but hidden in hallways, behind light fixtures, even inside the vents. I know because I cleaned them. The kitchen was fully stocked, but never used. Meals were delivered and left on the doorstep in insulated containers. No one cooked, no one shared a table. And despite all that money, there were no staff but me. No security guards, no assistants, no other cleaners. At night, I'd lie awake in the small guest room they gave me, listening to footsteps echoing through the halls, footsteps that didn't match mine. Something about the house felt staged, like everything had been set up for a purpose, and I wasn't a worker. I was part of the set, a piece in someone else's game. I just didn't know what they were playing, or what they were willing to sacrifice to win. It started small, a glance that lingered too long, a door that was always locked, but I could swear I heard voices behind it. The kind of things you brush off until they pile up and start to feel like warnings. One morning, I went to change the linens in the West guest room. It was on my schedule. But when I tried the handle, it was locked. That wasn't unusual by itself except the day before. The door had been open, and the sheets had been freshly slept in, pillow dented. A faint trace of perfume in the air. No one ever mentioned guests. No cars came or went. But someone had been there. Then there was the second housekeeper. She was supposed to start the following Monday, someone I had briefly met during a site visit. But Monday came and went, and she never showed up. When I asked Raven casually, she said, "Did she?" I don't remember approving a second. Her tone was flat. Her eyes said, "Drop it." That night, I checked the personnel binder in the office where I filed cleaning logs. The new cleaner's name had been typed in just 3 days prior. But now, her name was gone. Like she'd never existed. And then there were the conversations, short, cryptic exchanges I overheard when I was supposed to be out of earshot. "Just keep her where we can see her. She's a perfect match, almost a perfect. We'll switch if we have to, but let's try not to waste this one." This one. Like I was a product. A test run. My name started showing up in places it shouldn't. An insurance envelope slipped beneath. Raven's bedroom door had my name printed in bold. Another document on the household tablet briefly flashed a folder labeled policy collateral. Before disappearing, I wasn't supposed to see any of it. But once you start noticing the cracks, you can't unsee them, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. The security system would randomly disarm itself only when I was alone. My bedroom light would flicker at 2 a.m., like someone was tapping into the wiring. Once, I woke up and found my toothbrush wet. Even though I hadn't used it, I wasn't imagining it. Someone was studying me. Tracking my routines. Waiting. But for what? I didn't know yet. All I knew was that I wasn't safe, and I needed to start playing their game before they finished theirs. Because whatever this was, it wasn't about cleaning. It was about control, and I was the piece they couldn't afford to lose. I stopped being just a housekeeper the day I decided to investigate. Not officially, of course, but I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. I had to know what was really going on, even if it meant risking everything. I waited until Raven left for one of her spa retreats. She was only ever gone for a few hours, always had to be in control. But that afternoon, she took her personal driver and didn't look back. I had 1 hour. So I started with the office. Behind a stack of decorative books on the shelf, I found a hidden compartment. It clicked open with a light push. Inside were flash drives, envelopes, and something that looked like a ledger. Names, dates, policies, and my name. Again. Not once. Dozens of times. Each file connected to a life insurance policy. Each one listed me as the insured, and every policy listed Ravenstone or one of her companies as the sole beneficiary. One document stood out, a payout clause that read, "Trigger, accidental loss of life involving household staff Diana Mercer. Minimum payout, $7.5 million. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. I was worth more to them dead than alive. And I wasn't the first. The ledger listed other women. Some names I recognized, cleaners who had vanished. Women I'd seen in passing at the agency. All listed. All terminated. And not a single one still alive. I copied everything onto a flash drive. Then I did the riskiest thing I've ever done. I contacted someone from my past. His name was Juliana, former client I used to clean for, back before the agency. Now he was a freelance investigative journalist. I didn't trust him completely, but I didn't have many options. I sent him screenshots, redacted details, just enough to get his attention. His response was instant. "Meet. ASAP. What you have is big." That night, I started hiding everything. The flash drive went into the lining of my suitcase. I kept a burner phone in the vent above my bed. I even memorized an escape route through the cellar. Because things were changing. The air in the house was different. Raven stopped leaving. The lights outside my room stayed on all night. The cameras turned subtle, but just enough to notice. They knew something, and I knew they wouldn't let me walk away quietly. But I wasn't planning to run. Not yet. Not until I exposed the truth. Even if it meant playing along just a little longer. Even if it meant pretending I didn't know. That I was already marked. It all came to a head one stormy night. I remember because the wind kept slamming against the windows, like it was trying to warn me. I had just finished cleaning the upstairs hall when I noticed my bedroom door was open. I always locked it, always inside. Nothing looked disturbed. But when I checked my suitcase, the lining where I hid the flash drive, it was unzipped, still there, but touched. I wasn't just being watched anymore. I was being hunted. That night, I barely slept, and when I finally did, I woke up coughing. The air in the room was heavy, thick with fumes. I rushed to the door. It wouldn't open. The knob was hot. My heart was pounding. I kicked until it gave way and stumbled into the hallway, gasping for air. The garage door was open. The car engine was running. Exhaust had been seeping into the vents. Raven appeared at the top of the stairs, calm, holding a cup of tea. She didn't ask if I was okay, didn't acknowledge the smoke. She just said, "Careful with those vents. Old houses have a way of turning on you." It was a warning, not subtle, not even trying to be. The next morning, I confronted her. I told her I knew about the policies. I knew I was never just an employee. I was part of a bigger plan, a safety net, a backup payout. She didn't deny it. She just stared at me and said, "You think you're the first? Do you know how many lives this house has purchased?" Then she smiled. "But you're the first one smart enough to read the fine print." I asked her why use people like this? Why me? And she said something I'll never forget. Because no one misses a cleaner. No one asks questions when someone like you disappears. It wasn't just cold, it was calculated. They never expected me to fight back. They expected silence, obedience, disappearance. But they didn't know who I was, what I'd already survived. And I wasn't about to vanish quietly. The danger was real now. But so was the truth. And I had every intention of dragging it into the light. The truth didn't explode. All at once, it unraveled like a thread pulled from the hem of a perfect dress, until the whole thing came undone. Julian, the journalist, did exactly what I hoped he would. He verified the documents, cross-referenced the names in the ledger, matched them to real people, former domestic workers who had all died under strange, undocumented, or unfortunate circumstances. And then he found the payout records every time someone like me disappeared. One of Raven's shell companies cashed in. Not once, not twice, 7 times. Each death ruled an accident. Each body cremated quickly. No families notified. Because there were no families listed. The story broke like wildfire. Front page headlines. Whispers turned to roars. Billionaire heiress implicated in death for-profit insurance scheme. Exclusive. Housekeepers used as human collateral. Insured to death. The hidden economy of disposable workers. I stayed hidden at first, my identity protected. But when the media frenzy took off, I knew I had to speak. Not just for me, but for the women who didn't get to run, didn't get to fight back. I testified anonymously. My voice distorted. My face shadowed. But the words were mine. Every last one of them. Authorities raided the estate. They found what I couldn't carry: backup drives, falsified contracts, personal belongings from the missing women, evidence Raven thought she had erased. And just like that, the empire began to crumble. The agency that placed me shut down within days. Turns out, they weren't just complicit, they were funded by one of Raven's private accounts. Her children scattered. One tried to defend her, publicly claimed it was all insurance fraud, nothing criminal. Another fled the country. But the youngest, the one who always avoided eye contact, he reached out to me. Quietly. Privately. Said he knew something was wrong. He wanted to help but didn't know how. And now he was ready to talk. He handed Julian the final piece of the puzzle, an audio recording of Raven discussing the acceptable risks of their scheme. She laughed as she said it. "You can't make billions without losing a few pawns." That clip went viral. And it sealed her fate. Raven was arrested, charged with conspiracy, insurance fraud, and suspected involvement in multiple deaths. Her trial became a symbol of how the rich play games with lives they don't value. But for me, it was the first time I felt seen. Not as a cleaner, not as a pawn, but as a person who fought back and won. After the trial, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Exposed. Like the entire world had seen what it meant to be invisible, and now they didn't know what to do with me. I didn't go back to cleaning. I couldn't, not after what I'd lived through. Instead, I took the settlement money, quiet compensation from the estate, handled discreetly through lawyers who never looked me in the eye, and left the city. I changed my name, moved somewhere quiet, near the ocean, somewhere with wind that didn't sound like threats and walls that didn't have eyes. And for the first time in years, I started living. I started a small non-profit one that helps domestic workers know their rights, get legal protection, and connect with safe employers. It's not flashy, it's not big, but it's real. Every week, I get messages from women who feel unsafe, who've noticed the same kinds of red flags I once ignored, and I help them quietly, consistently. I never wanted fame. I just wanted to matter, to mean something beyond a paycheck or a policy. And now, I do. The world may not remember my name, but somewhere out there are women who didn't disappear because I didn't stay silent. Women who fought back because they saw someone else do it first. That's what changed my life, not the money, not the headlines, but the moment I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something that couldn't be erased or rewritten by people like Ravenstone. I used to think my life didn't have value, but now I know it was never about how the rich saw me. It was about how I chose to see myself, and I chose to fight. To live. To matter. Looking back, I still don't know how I made it out. There were moments I truly believed I wouldn't, that I'd just be another name buried in a spreadsheet, forgotten behind a locked door. But something inside me refused to stay quiet, refused to be erased. I used to think survival was about staying invisible, keeping my head down. Not asking questions. But now I know that's exactly how they win. They count on our silence. They build their empires on the backs of people no one thinks to protect. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt like you didn't matter, like your life was small or disposable, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not invisible, you are not replaceable, and you are not alone. Sometimes the smallest voice can unravel the loudest lies. Sometimes survival looks like standing up when everyone expects you to shrink. I wasn't supposed to make it out of that house, but I did, not because I was special, but because I stopped believing their lie that I was powerless. And if they ever try to write you off like you're just a number, remember this story. Remember that even the quietest person in the room can bring down an empire. And sometimes surviving is the loudest thing you can do.